There have been rumors floating around as of late that the Game Boy and Game Boy Color will have games coming to the Nintendo Switch Online service pretty soon. If that's true, I think it'll be a good way to bring more value to that service, though I do think a lot of people would prefer Game Boy Advance and maybe Nintendo 64 instead of Game Boy. Maybe down the road that stuff will happen, we'll have to wait and see. But at this time, always take these kind of news stories with a huge grain of salt. It just always boils down to it ain't true until it happens. Nintendo hasn't said jack shit about any of this. So we'll have to wait and see, but it does seem likely. Now, I do like the idea, but at the same time, I don't put as much value on having access to old school games on the Switch. Not as much as others do, especially when you don't have any kind of ownership of these games. It's kind of like you get to rent them as long as you keep paying for the service, which is fine, I suppose. There's always talk of Nintendo needing to do more to provide value with the Switch Online service. But one thing to note that I don't really see a lot of people talk about is that with the retro games that are already on the service, they do support online multiplayer. So that's a big plus for the service versus, playing those games via other means anyway. In the end, I really don't complain too much about paying for the service, as it is far cheaper than the Xbox or PlayStation, though arguably you can say that you get more value with those system services. I'm just fine with paying the small yearly fee to Nintendo. I mean, they do have other exclusive stuff like Tetris 99, Pac-Man 99, but I do wish they never got rid of Mario 35. I mean, they should have at least renamed it or changed some things with it, sold the game so we could still play it, maybe in a physical form. I know it had to do with the 35th anniversary of Mario, but now what? Do we got to wait for the 40th anniversary to get to play it again? Okay, but back to the topic of this video, Game Boy on the Switch. I am really curious to hear what games you guys would like to see to come to the service if it does happen. I'm sure if and when it does come that it would be a small trickle of games and most likely a lot of first-party stuff. But yeah, really curious what you guys would like to see. Always interested in hearing about games that I may have never heard of before or played. So drop a comment down below. Let me know some of your favorite Game Boy games and maybe what makes them so great anyway, right? For me, I love the Game Boy. I had one near the time it originally came out, and I've probably played hundreds of Game Boy games since then, so it's really hard to make a list of what I'd like to see. I'm sure all the staples would be there, like the Mario games and Pokemon. Maybe Pokemon, who knows? They're kind of greedy with some stuff, so I guess we could say that the things that would seem obvious might not even make it. Who knows? But I'm gonna go ahead and stay away from mentioning those games anyway. But let's talk about what I'd like to see. So the Kirby games, they were always a fun time for me. But two of them I probably enjoyed more than any human has the right to enjoy something. And I played the crap out of these two games, Kirby's Block Ball and Pinball Land. I remember going through tons of batteries just on these two games alone. There's just something pure about simple games like these. They have a lot of character and they're unique. Sure, these could have just been painted over with any franchise's sprites and music, but the Kirby aesthetic just works. These games are fun. I still play them to today, and I think a lot of people have forgotten about them, so it'd be really cool to see them on the Switch Online service and, more people becoming aware of these games. So another set of games I'd like to see grace us on the Switch would be the original 5 Mega Man games for the Game Boy. These games, I don't believe, ever have been re-released in a collection, but I know individually they were available on the 3DS eShop. Capcom did have plans for a compilation for the Game Boy Advance that would have given us new colorized versions of these games, but it was canceled for reasons no one really seems to know. I can't find straight answers anywhere. Kind of wish that would have happened, damn it. But it would be really cool if they did put the colorized versions on the Switch and maybe fix some of the slowdown while they're at it. I mean, these games are kind of like the original NES games, but smaller form and some things changed. They're still a lot of fun. I really enjoy the Mega Man games on the Game Boy. I think it would be really cool to have them on the Switch, so why the hell not? Next, I wouldn't mind seeing the Game Boy Castlevania games. This may be a little controversial if you've played them anyway, but if I did have to pick one, it would have to be Castlevania 2 Belmont's Revenge. The other games that were on the Game Boy, they really weren't that great in my opinion, This one, though, it's a direct sequel to the first game on the Game Boy, Castlevania The Adventure. You play as Christopher Belmont again. This time you're trying to save his son, who was turned into a demon by Dracula. Now, the game, it does feel a bit sluggish, but it's improved upon pretty much every aspect over the original game. It also has branching paths, which do help mix things up a little bit. The music sounds good. The game is fun. It's Castlevania. It is fairly short, but you know what? I don't care. These are Game Boy games. They're portable, miniature versions of console games. I don't care. Castlevania 2, Belmont's Revenge for the Game Boy. Bring it to the Switch, bitch. Another Konami game I'd like to see would be Contra the Alien Wars. Just plain and simple, this game feels and plays great. So there's many games on the Game Boy that try to replicate games from consoles, but just don't do that great a job. But I feel Contra on the Game Boy, it holds its own. It's smooth, plays just as you expect a Contra game to, play and feel. It would be awesome to see it on the Switch Online service. It's Contra, not much to say about it, but it's a great game on the Game Boy, so bring it to the Switch. Why not? Now, an oddball game that I don't see many people talk about that I'd love to see would be Balloon Kid. So if you're familiar with Balloon Fight on the NES, which is one of my all-time favorite games on the NES, by the way, then you may enjoy Balloon Kid. The single-player mode plays fairly similar to the Balloon Trip mode on Balloon Fight. Avoid obstacles, collect balloons as the level automatically progresses. But the one interesting thing is you could lose or let go of your balloons and just walk and jump through the stage. That does make it quite a bit more challenging, at least from when I played it. It's a cool little game, though, that doesn't get much attention, so I think it'd be neat to expose more people to it, by adding it to the Nintendo Switch. Seriously, do it. Now, the Game Boy, just like the NES, had a decent amount of Disney games that were pretty good. One of my favorites on the NES were the DuckTales games. Well, the Game Boy had 2 DuckTales games as well. And shit, since we never got the Disney Afternoon Collection on a Nintendo console, we need something. Like, seriously, a collection of NES games re-released on every console except for a Nintendo system, it makes zero damn sense to me. The hell's these people's problems? Forget Game Boy games on the Switch, just release the Afternoon Collection physically for the Switch and add a few of the Game Boy games as well, damn it. I'll just give up the Switch Online service altogether, screw it. Where the fuck is the Disney Afternoon Collection for Nintendo? Holy crap, I absolutely love that collection. Now this has turned into a rant video. That collection needs to be on the Switch. Why hasn't it been? The game is just dope with the boss rush stuff, all the little extras they added to it. Oh my god, we could talk about that for days. I'm so annoyed still. Okay, so the next one I'd like to see on the Switch is probably one of the more likely ones to actually happen. I tried my best not to think of titles that pretty much have a 100% chance of making it, but it's just so hard to ignore. Metroid 2: Return of Samus. I was hooked on this game when it first came out. It continued the story of the first game where the space pirates were trying to use the power of the Metroids for whatever their nefarious deeds were, and after many failed attempts of the Galactic Federation to exterminate the Metroids on their home planet, SR-388, Samus is sent to finish the mission. So in Metroid 2, it has you hunting down all the remaining Metroids. And, they're like different, growth or evolutions. I don't know how to explain it. I'm sure many of you guys have played this game. You know what I'm talking about. They're different forms or whatever. Or different, however old they were, they changed form. I don't know, whatever, right? It was an awesome game that I sunk many hours into. And after having completed the remake on the 3DS, I wouldn't mind revisiting the original on the Switch. Why not? Now that I'm looking back at everything I've been talking about, I didn't realize I had a good number of Capcom games I wanted to talk about, but I gotta add just one more. So before Demon's Crest on the Super Nintendo, we had Gargoyles Quest on the Game Boy. This game, it's a side-scrolling platformer with some over-the-head town exploration type of stuff thrown in. It plays in a similar way to Demon's Crest as you play as Firebrand. You could fly for a short while, grab on the walls, spit fire, attack shit, It's very similar to Demon's Crest. Now, this game is a decent challenge. I think it might even be a little more difficult than Demon's Crest. And it's another one I don't hear many people talk about when it comes to sweet-ass Game Boy games. So, hell, I mean, if you've never checked this one out and like Demon's Crest, go load this one up on an emulator or flash cart to see how it started, you know, back playing as Firebrand, because I think these games are pretty sweet. Definitely worth it if they added it to the Switch. Isn't Demon's Crest on the Switch already? So yeah, throw this one up there as well, damn it. Now, the final game I want to mention today is already available to be played in a legit way on the Switch, but I just don't give a shit. It was another game that I played the crap out of when it first released, and I wouldn't mind seeing more people get a chance to check it out. Final Fantasy Adventure. Now, this game, it has elements of Final Fantasy, but you'll also notice many familiar things you see in Secret of Mana for the Super Nintendo. Final Fantasy Adventure was essentially the beginning of the Mana series. It plays a lot like the original Legend of Zelda games, but it's still its own thing. You have a level system, stats, all that good stuff. It's an action RPG in that sense. Now, it was remade for the Game Boy Advance as Sword of Mana, and was released in the Collection of Mana compilation for the Switch and other consoles, but screw it. If people get a chance to play this one on the Switch Online service and never experience the other Mana games, maybe it will pique their interest in getting the Collection of Mana to check out the other ones, maybe? They could make some money, I don't freaking know, you know? So those were a few games and series I'd like to see represent the Game Boy on the Switch Online service. I know I didn't mention any Game Boy Color only games in this list, but if you want to share some Game Boy Color games that you think would be great on the Switch, let me know down in the comments below. I didn't even really think about Game Boy Color, but I guess, I don't know, I think maybe when the Game Boy Color came out, I was kind of moved on and wasn't playing as much anymore. So I you know, Game Boy Color games don't immediately pop in my head. There are games that pop in my head that, you know, had Game Boy Color enhancements and whatnot, but those clear cartridges, they were all clear, right? Yeah, I can't really think of too many of those, but if there was any sweet-ass ones, let me know down below. I'm really curious. Definitely worth checking out. I always check out games that you guys mention, so yeah, drop a comment down below. Really do appreciate you guys, and catch you on the next one. Peace out, bye-bye, and boom. Bye.